Welcome back to my channel. As I keep saying, both men and women are making a mess of relationships. I mostly talk about the crazy stuff coming from feminist women, partly because I lived through the big rise in modern feminism and have seen all the results, but also because at this time in history, it is arguable that women have unfair advantages and act like that's how it should be. But don't worry, I'll be dealing with the crap from men sometimes too. One of the really big problems are the double standards, so let's get into some of that.
I think it's weird that women can expect things from men, but men can't expect anything from women. Like, I seriously want you to stop and think about one thing that it's socially acceptable for a man to expect from a woman. Like, can you think of a tangible thing where if I got on here and I was like, hey, I think in a relationship that women should blah, 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 that wouldn't be problematic or red pill? Because from what I notice, it's like, it's okay if a woman expects men to pay for dates, but that man can't expect the woman to put out. It's okay if women expect men to pay all their rent, but if he expects her to cook and clean, he's a filthy misogynist. Women can expect a man to facilitate an environment in which they can become a stay-at-home mother. However, that man cannot expect her to become a stay-at-home mother. Like, do you see what I'm getting at here? Personally, I don't think anybody should expect anything from anybody. However, the hypocrisy is crazy to me. And the lack of acknowledgement in the hypocrisy just confuses me.
Yeah, that's a problem. Expectations seem to only be acceptable when applied to men, but you can't have them for women. Such traditional male roles are just expected not only by women, but by society as a whole. Even men pretty much agree with these expectations, but many men will also feel the risks aren't worth it, so they choose not to get married or maybe not even date. Now, I don't agree with this guy's comment about expecting a woman he dates and spends lots of money on to put out. But then, I don't know if he really meant he thought they should. I felt he was just trying to make a basic point about double standards. But expectations of sex is yet another problem created by feminists. It used to be that the big question was whether or not, at the end of a date, you get a goodnight kiss. And plenty of women, especially young ones, had a policy of not kissing on the first date. But now, thanks to 1960s feminism, the question is whether the woman will go to bed with you on the first date. Because feminists declared it was an unfair double standard for women to be looked down on for having premarital sex, while young men got a lot of praise from their peers. So the feminist solution was to have women lower their standards to be like men. You know, men who think sex on the first date is just great. You don't hear much anymore about marrying a virgin. It's gotten so bad that men now talk about finding a woman with a low body count, like less than 10. I'm not even criticizing women today if they have sex. After all, it's always been true that if you love someone, or at least think you do, some will give in to their urges, and some will give in to a guy who tries to manipulate her. You know, the jerk who says, if you loved me, you'd prove it. And after she gives in, he drops her and moves on to someone else. Anyway, back to the point of the clip. What expectations for a woman can a man have that are accepted the same way the male roles can be expected by women? Pretty much none. Here's another clip making a similar point, though it is a little inaccurate.
Most of the marriages I know, okay, the man provides financially, he protects, right? Yeah. He's also there to be part of the family dynamic, taking care of kids, doing the things that he can do. What does the woman bring? She brings love, affection, a little bit of sweetness at the end of the day, sex. She brings, taking care of kids. Okay, if you get divorced, every single thing on that side of the man equation, he can be compelled to do by the power of the state, and if he fails to do it, they can put him in jail. Nothing on that other side, the female side, is enforceable at law. The court cannot order her to be nice to you, to fuck you, to be a wonderful mother to your children. She can't. They can't force that.
The basic point is true, but he says the man can be required to provide financially, to protect, be part of the family dynamic, take care of the kids, etc. That isn't true, at least not the way he expressed it. It is true that in the vast majority of cases, courts will have him providing financially, but how can a court make him protect or any of the other things as part of a divorce? But he is correct that there is pretty much nothing the courts will do to force the woman to do the things a man expects. That is a problem. Don't know if there is a legal solution, but it's still a problem. Next, we have an argument between a man and woman about expectations, and the woman's expectations are just fine to the woman, but she objects to the expectations of the man. I'll be breaking this up into small pieces because I want to also point out how they often are just talking past each other or don't understand what submission really means.
Well, there's men who expect you to bow down for them and fold their laundry on
How would that be
first date.
oppression?
I just feel like, why are we bowing down to you? Who are you?
The first problem is a reference to bow down rather than submission. The word submission is a source of friction already, but bow down is far stronger, thus more objectionable to women. The man should have rejected that term. Regardless, we have the woman thinking that doing traditional wife things is bowing down. If folding laundry bothers her so much, exactly what does she think a woman can be expected to do? I get the feeling it isn't much, if anything. But I will point out that some men do, in fact, treat submission as bowing down. They are wrong. So we get the man's reaction.
Why do I have to
bow
work
down to
5
you?
hours to take you on a date?
Because you want to, because that's a
You
kind
expect it, though.
gesture. I would like that.
And I would like a woman to bow to me.
Well, you can have your preference.
And you can have your preference too. How is it oppression?
The woman seems to miss the point. She sees that a man may want to pay for the date, but seems to reject that a woman may also want to be submissive. The woman does at least say she would just like the man to pay, but she seems blind to the man having the same right to like a woman to be submissive. You see, both should be able to have their own likes. If a woman or man doesn't agree, then they just don't form a relationship, at least in a sane world. Continuing.
Bowing down in general is disrespectful.
It's the most respectful thing you can do. A man wanting a woman to be submissive is oppression.
For women who don't want to be put in that position.
I'm not forcing any woman to do it. Submission is not something that is taken, it is something that is given.
This is a case where they're talking past each other. The woman is interpreting it as being forced to bow down, while the man is talking about a woman being willing to do so. It would have helped if the terminology stuck to submission rather than bowing down, though. The woman then applies a different standard to men again.
But you place women who don't want to do that on a lower pedestal.
Yeah,
than
what's wrong
women
with
who
that?
do. I feel like that's a form of oppression.
You're oppressing men that don't want to pay for first dates?
No.
So it's only oppression when men do it. Like if a man holds a woman to a standard, that's oppression. When women hold men to the standards, sack up. That's your job as a man. That's not oppression.
No, if he's willingly paying for our first date.
And she's willingly bowing. The more she wants to do it, and I don't even have to tell her anything, the more attractive that is.
Would it not be true that if a man didn't want to pay for the first date, that a woman often would lower his standing in her eyes? In fact, regardless of your personal standards, don't you lower the standing of anyone who doesn't meet them when it comes to relationships? If you like tall men, you are essentially lowering the standing of short men in your eyes when it comes to relationships. This applies to any preference. The guy is saying what kind of woman he wants. The woman is saying what kind of man she wants. Both will take a pass on anyone from the opposite sex who doesn't match up. That isn't oppression, that's choice. Every one of my videos about relationships, feminism, etc. are part of my effort to clarify things in my own mind. After all, even if you know what you believe, it can be very hard to put it into the right words. I'm not satisfied yet, and probably never will be, but I hope it gives you some things to think about as well. Thanks for watching, and don't let the trolls stop you from speaking out.